Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. I was searching through my wife's handbag for her car keys so I could move her car out of the garage and get to work. As I rummaged through her large bag, I found things that were surprising. Do you want to know why I'm sharing this? There's a good reason. The most surprising thing in her bag was an unopened box of condoms. Yes, 12 of the ultra-thin kind. Why would there be a box of condoms in my wife's bag? There could be a reasonable explanation, but at that moment, I couldn't think of one. The kids were making their usual noises as they got ready to head to school. I was almost set to go to work, and Laura was also busy getting ready for her office. When she saw me sitting at the kitchen table with the box, she paused for a moment. She walked over, took the box from my hand, put it back in her handbag, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and said, "Have a good day, sweetie. Don't forget, you're grilling tonight." Then she grabbed her handbag and jacket and left. The kids, Andy and Gracie, poked their heads around the corner saying, "We're ready to go, Dad," then headed out to the garage. What just happened? I managed to drop the kids off at school without a hitch, but I have to admit I don't remember any of it, even when I entered my small office. I passed by people who greeted me, but I can't recall who they were. I found myself sitting in my office, staring out the window, trying to remember what went on at home that morning. Did I imagine it? Was it real? Why does my wife of 11 years have a box of condoms in her handbag? My mind raced with thoughts, and of course, I began to worry about the worst possible explanations. I started to wonder if she might be seeing someone else. Was she thinking about leaving us? Did she want a divorce? The weight of it all pressed down on me, and I had to sit with my head down, trying to collect my thoughts. I stayed like that until someone knocked on the door, asking if I wanted to get coffee from the shop downstairs. I did. The day went by slowly. When I got home, I knew I looked shaken, like I had seen something terrible. I felt weak, and my chest was tight. I saw the kids at the kitchen island, working on what looked like homework. Laura was in the kitchen preparing dinner. She glanced at me, walked over, and said, "Don't forget you're cooking the burgers on the grill. Go get changed." Then she returned to her cooking as if nothing had happened that morning. I couldn't believe it. Not knowing what else to do, I went to the bedroom to change out of my suit. It felt odd walking into the bedroom, as if I was expecting someone else to be there. I looked cautiously around the door before entering. Nothing. I slowly opened my closet, half expecting a surprise. Still nothing. The bathroom was also empty. I felt more and more uneasy. I took a quick shower, my mind racing with thoughts. Nothing made sense. I had no proof that anything was wrong with Laura. There could be a simple reason for the box of items in her bag. I decided it was best to wait for her to explain in her own time. It might take a while, but eventually I would know, and then I could decide what to do. I put on jeans and a t-shirt, went downstairs, chatted with the kids, and started cooking burgers for dinner. But I still wanted to find out if something was wrong. That night, I tried to read in bed for a few minutes before sleeping. Laura was also in bed, but she usually wore something comfortable that let her move easily as needed. She says she is a bit more modest than I am in that way. When I put my book down and turned off the light, I rolled over to her and put my arm around her waist, wishing her good night as I usually do. She replied with her typical "love you," and then settled in to sleep. I didn't sleep much that night and wouldn't for some time. Several months later, wow, that was an amazing moment. Laura is truly wonderful. She must have felt so happy, and I felt content too. We needed to clean up afterward because we were both a bit messy. The bed sheets were tangled, so we had to remake the bed to get some rest. She returned to the bed, comfortable and cuddled close to me. My arm was around her waist, and I felt her warmth. I drifted off into a peaceful sleep. But sometimes, in quiet moments when I'm alone, I think back to that morning when I found the box of items in her bag. I've tried to forget it, but it lingers in my mind. I researched online about signs of unfaithfulness and concluded that Laura didn't fit any of those patterns. Plus, months had passed, and she could have easily explained the box. I looked for those signs I read about, but Laura showed none of them. So why am I still troubled by that box? Because I'm a husband. More months later, that doubt continues to bother me. You may have had a thought that keeps coming back. It feels like an obsession. I have a persistent worry that I can't shake. I need to clear my mind and deal with it. It's making me question myself. I've been taking longer in the shower before bed and pushing myself more during my morning runs. I'm trying to deal with my feelings and my frustration, but I'm not sure who I'm upset with. I need help. But what kind? How can I get rid of this nagging thought? A few months later, it's been over a year since I found that box in Laura's bag. The only big change since then is that we've all had another birthday. I got a small promotion at work, which increased my pay by about 20%, and my bonus is also a bit higher. The kids are doing well in school and still acting like kids. They have a few new activities now, which means Laura and I have less free time. Laura is the same as she has always been. She still has her job, but is earning a bit more. We do a lot as a family, and Laura and I work hard to spend quality time together and enjoy outings. We're doing well financially. The kids are good. Everything is fine. However, there is still one small thing that bugs me. It occupies my thoughts less often, but it hasn't fully gone away. I know I need to deal with it eventually. But when? My relationship with Laura has been good. We used to share close moments a few times each week, but lately I've found ways to make that happen 3 times. Sometimes our time together is lively and full of energy. Afterward, we often share a shower, and it's common for us to have another sweet moment before I need to rest. I mentioned that Laura can be quite spirited, and I find that my energy matches hers too. I hold her close, and our bond brings us both happiness. I'm not planning to make any big changes. The kids are still young, and changing our family setup could be tough for them. I want to keep things as they are for as long as I can. If Laura brings up wanting to change things, I'll make sure my kids are well cared for. If she wants a different path, she'll have to face the results. A few more months passed. This ongoing thought led me to contact a private investigation service. I went to their office and spoke with a woman who was surprisingly friendly. She was no older than 35, and I wasn't sure at first if she could help me. My expectations had made me think I would meet someone more typical for this job. Instead, I found someone I felt I could talk to easily. We talked a lot about my concerns and the details I needed to know. I wrote down several things about Laura: where we lived, where she worked, our car details, her phone number, and I also gave her a recent photo of Laura from my phone. I paid a retainer, and after answering some questions, I left. Miss Wolfenstein would call me in a week or so with an update, and we would discuss what would happen next. I left her office feeling uncertain about my next steps. Would it be better to know the truth? If Laura was with someone else, could I accept that for the sake of my family? I didn't have any answers. 2 weeks later, I received a call at work from Miss Wolfenstein. She said she had a preliminary report ready for me. She wanted me to come to her office to discuss what she found and let me decide whether to stop or continue the investigation. So I went. It wasn't good news. When I entered her office, she offered me a bottle of water. I opened it and took a drink. The look on her face told me that what she had to share wasn't positive. She began to explain. Laura is dating a man younger than her named Trayvon Williams. He is single, and I have a photo of them together where they are holding hands. Laura and I are both 35 years old, while her new friend is about 25. He is tall, attractive, and fit. My mind raced, and I realized I wasn't paying attention to her words. I was focused on the table. After seeing the picture of my wife with another man, I couldn't recall much of what she said. Miss Wolfenstein had stopped talking, but I didn't notice when. She sat there watching me, and all I could do was sit in silence, staring blankly at the table. "Mr. Brady, are you okay?" she asked. I didn't answer. "Mr. Brady, please take a drink of water." "Huh?" "Please, have some water, Mr. Brady." I looked at the bottle in my hand, confused. I took a sip, then another, emptying the bottle. This moment led to an unexpected feeling. A wastebasket was placed in front of me, and suddenly I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't control it, and I realized how I was feeling. What was I supposed to do now? After the news from Miss Wolfenstein, I managed to make my way back to my office and shut the door. A few things were about to happen. Miss Wolfenstein mentioned that her husband is a lawyer who specializes in divorce cases. She handed me his business card and said he would call me to discuss my options. What options did I have? He called me soon after. His name is Jordan Walters, a local attorney who works in various areas of law, including family law. After looking him up online, I saw that he has a good reputation and supports his clients well. So I decided to meet with him. Well, that was eye-opening. After spending an hour with Mr. Walters, I learned that if I choose to take action against Laura, the outcome might not be in my favor in New York State family law courts. It seems that these courts usually think of mothers as the main caregivers, which feels old-fashioned to me. Fathers often carry the financial weight, but their role in custody decisions gets overlooked. I know many fathers in these situations might not take their duties seriously, and the courts aim to protect children from those who don't. However, it's important for the courts to see fathers who want to care for their children and treat them fairly, just like they do mothers. Mothers aren't always the best caregivers either. Some women may not be ready for motherhood, and in those cases, fathers could give their children a more stable home. It's sad when neither parent can look after the kids, leaving them to rely on grandparents or the foster care system. You won't believe the advice my new lawyer gave me. It's still hard for me to accept. Jordan and I had a deep talk about what mattered most to me regarding my marriage to Laura and my children. I started by saying that I wanted to divorce her because I had learned about her being unfaithful. I wanted her to move on and hope to keep the house and the kids, with her helping with child support. As I talked, I noticed Jordan's expression change. He seemed to think I was being a bit too hopeful. I suppose my hopes were high, but I am not the one who was unfaithful. Would the family law court look down on me as the wronged partner? It felt like that could really happen. After our talk and his suggestions, I left and walked a portion of the way back to my office. I stopped to grab a much-needed coffee at a Starbucks and took a moment to sit, looking out the window at people passing by. I thought about Jordan's advice. He had expressed regret over his recommendations, but stressed that he had seen many clients rush to make decisions out of anger and later regret them. He gave me two key pieces of advice. Don't act out of anger, and for now, do nothing. The first part was straightforward. If I let anger get the best of me, I could face serious trouble, and my hopes in family court would be lost. No judge would give me custody with a criminal record. It would also hurt my job and my life. Losing my temper wasn't an option for me. The second piece of Jordan's advice was the real challenge. Do nothing. Could I just wait and let things happen? Could I accept what was going on? Or would I need to take stronger steps? I wanted to stand up for myself. Laura's actions deserved some kind of answer, but Jordan reminded me that this was a long process, and being patient was key for success. I wasn't sure I had that much patience. When I got home with my new ideas and advice, I looked at Laura, and she seemed just as usual. The kids were busy doing their activities, being kids. I didn't say much, but changed my clothes and grabbed a drink from the fridge. Laura looked at me and said, "Take it easy with the drinks, we have soccer tonight." I put the bottle back in the fridge. We had a quick dinner and then got into the car for the soccer game. Everything felt normal. Time moved on. I came home on a Friday evening around 5, my usual time, and found the kids watching TV in the family room while Laura sat at the kitchen table. She was still in her work clothes, focused on her tablet, with a glass of wine next to her. She looked up when I entered the kitchen. "You're home, good. Get a drink and come sit with me." This felt a bit different. I sensed something was off. What was going on? Maybe it was nothing, but it could be something. I needed to find out. "I'm going to change first and then get a drink. I'll be right back." Laura returned to her tablet, and I went to our bedroom, changed into jeans and a long-sleeve t-shirt. I kept a small supply of my favorite beer in the garage refrigerator. My mind was also on Rob and the kids. As time passed, I quietly began making plans for the day when Laura might tell me she wanted to leave us for her boyfriend, Trayvon. The first step was clear. I needed to prepare for the kids' future and my own. This meant handling our finances well so that the kids and I wouldn't struggle if Laura moved on. My friend Jordan recommended that I see a financial planner to help protect my assets. He suggested setting up trust accounts for the kids, with me as the only person in charge. The plan was to ensure they had money for school after high school, while also covering costs leading up to that. I discreetly redirected my annual bonus into those accounts, which were invested in stable stocks and bonds that offered good returns. Over time, the value of those trusts would grow. I also looked at our joint credit card balances and lowered the maximum amount we could charge. I told Laura it was a safety measure in case there were issues with the card. She agreed it was a wise decision, given her banking experience. I took stock of our household's main assets and mentioned to Laura that I was looking into better insurance options. The company I was looking at needed information about our valuable items. I needed to get ready for the day when Laura would share her plans. I wanted to make sure everything went as smoothly as possible for me and the kids, but I know it never goes that way. Jordan confirmed that. Laura Trey wants me to spend a weekend with him. How do I handle that? I need to come up with a story for Rob, but what could I say? I've imagined different situations, but none work where I can be away from my family for a weekend without Rob finding out. My family is too close to make a good cover story. My job wouldn't work either. Bankers hardly ever have commitments on weekends. At least not me. As for my friends, they know Rob well enough that I'm sure they would accidentally reveal my plan. I told Trey that we can only meet for a couple of hours at lunchtime, but he wants more, asking to be honest about our relationship. That's not going to happen. Yet despite everything, I still feel connected to him. I need to find a solution. Laura. A few weeks ago, I planned to talk to Rob and tell him I wanted to go out with a friend. At the last moment, I backed out and didn't say anything. Good thing I didn't. But Trey wants more from me, or he might end our friendship. He says he needs someone he can spend more time with. He enjoys being with me, but a few hours a week isn't enough. He wants more. I want to keep what I have, but I don't want to risk Rob finding out. A bit more time with Trey would be nice, but I have to find a way to do it without risking my family. Laura, things are getting serious, and Trey wants me to spend next weekend with him. A group of friends is getting together, and he wants me there with him. If I don't, I worry I might lose his support. He makes me feel valued in a way that's hard to explain. Not that Rob doesn't have his good qualities, but Trey has a charm that I can't overlook. So what should I do? I have to take the chance. Wish me luck. Rob. It's Thursday, and I just got home from work. I need to change and relax for a bit before I help with dinner and play with the kids. I see Laura sitting at the dining room table with her tablet, looking very serious. Rob, honey, why don't you grab a drink? I want to talk to you about something important. What could this be? I wasn't expecting it now, but any moment is as good as another. Laura, let me change and I'll get something to drink. I went to our bedroom, changed out of my work clothes, and took a long shower to wash off the day and prepare for what I thought might be an important conversation. I felt nervous, sensing that things between us were about to change. I held my breath to remind myself to just breathe. When I got to the kitchen, I could tell Laura was anxious. She picked up her glass of wine, and I noticed her hand was shaking a little. I could tell something important was about to be said. I walked to the fridge, grabbed my favorite drink, and poured it into a glass before sitting down. So, what's on your mind? Sweetie, I need to talk about something that might upset you. But first, I want to say I love you very much. Why remind me of that now, Laura? I asked, feeling uneasy. It sounds like what you're about to say might make me doubt your love. Just tell me. Laura flinched at my words. She focused on her wine glass. Sweetie, a friend asked me to go with him to an event, and I said I would. It's just a dinner. He's meeting some friends from school and feels out of place without someone to go with him. I told him I would talk to you first. So let me get this right. This young man can't find someone to go with him, so he asks a married woman? Doesn't that seem strange to you? He's a kind young man and a bit shy. I thought it would be nice to help him out. Hold on. A shy young man who can't get a date wants you to go as just a friend. Is that right? Not as his girlfriend, just as a friend. Really? He's going to show up to a gathering with his friends with a good-looking woman and not say she's his girlfriend? You have to be honest with yourself. Laura stared at her wine glass again. I continued. Do you remember when we first started dating? You couldn't wait to introduce me as your boyfriend. You even called your parents to share the news, and you talked with your mom for a long time. I took a sip of my drink. Does Trayvon think of you as a close friend? Is he really going to introduce you as just a friend? Maybe we should call him to find out. Laura's head shot up when I mentioned Trayvon's name, and it was clear she didn't expect me to know about him. Her face showed surprise. Come on, Laura. You've been close with Trayvon for a while. He probably wants to look good in front of his friends. What? How? Rob. I just want you to know that spending time with Trayvon this weekend might have some consequences. Laura was trying to gather herself. Sweetie, I'm not his girlfriend. Oh, really? You've been spending time with Trayvon for almost 2 years and you say you're not his girlfriend. Be honest. Laura suddenly went quiet. I continued. Okay, when do you plan to have dinner with him? He wants me to go Friday night. And it's just dinner with him and his friends? That's what he said. Like I said, maybe we should call him to make sure. No, I don't want to bother him. I was tired of this talk and told Laura to go ahead with her plan. Are you coming home Friday after dinner? Or will you stay with Trey all night? I might spend the night with him now that you know. Okay, but before you spend the weekend with your boyfriend, I need you to understand that this changes everything between us. Laura tried to speak, but I raised my hand. I know this is the modern world and traditional views on marriage seem old-fashioned, but I want to say that I'm really disappointed in you and your choices. If you don't want to be married to me anymore, please just tell me. Don't act like nothing is wrong. Sweetie, I love you very much, and our marriage is my top priority. What Trey and I are doing once a week is something I feel I need right now. I won't need it for long, and when it's over, you and I will be like we always were. We will? You seem to believe otherwise. Well, go be with Trey if that's what you want, but don't think I won't make some changes, too. I finished my drink, got up from the table, washed my glass, and left the kitchen. My wife had made her choice. Now I had to make mine. She watched me as I walked away. Friday, Laura had a bag packed and placed by the front door Friday morning. I went into the kitchen where the kids were eating breakfast. Laura was quiet, sipping her coffee. I got a cup and sat with the kids. I looked at Laura. When are you coming home? She looked at the floor. Probably Sunday around noon. Great. A Friday dinner has turned into a full weekend. I looked at her. Remember what we talked about. Kids, let's go. I'll drop you off at school. Mom is going to be away, so I'll pick you up today, too. The kids glanced at their mother as if asking where she was going. Laura didn't say anything. We left, and that was that. Laura, I feel nervous. What have I done? I think I might have made a mistake getting involved with Trey, but he makes me feel things that Rob doesn't. Rob is good in his own way, but Trey offers something different. I feel drawn to him. When Rob mentioned consequences for my time with Trey, I wasn't sure what he meant. Trey believes that Rob can't really do anything. If he tries, it will be him who loses. If Rob wants to end our marriage, I know I would get the kids in the house. Rob would have to help take care of them for years, at least until they finish college. He really loves the kids and wouldn't want to be away from them. Knowing this makes me feel he will let me follow my own path. He doesn't have many options. Rob. My wife is making choices I don't agree with. I wouldn't usually call her silly, but her actions are confusing. I talked to my lawyer, Jordan, about what's happening. We prepared for this possibility and discussed what it might mean. He reminded me to keep my focus and not let my feelings get in the way. This was just one problem, and there was a bigger picture to consider. So that's what I did. On Friday night, while my wife was out with her friends, I took steps to handle things. I moved most of Laura's things to the spare bedroom, which has its own bathroom. It wasn't too much trouble, but it meant I could have the main bedroom to myself. I wasn't comfortable with this arrangement, and her being away showed me I needed to be firm. When our kids, Andy and Gracie, noticed the changes, I told them they could ask their mother when she got back. They were young and probably didn't fully understand. I'm not sure their mom did either. Laura Friday started off quietly. Rob and I were both quiet while we went through our morning routines. I packed a small bag for the weekend. This would be the first time Trey and I would spend a night together. I had initially told Rob it would just be dinner, but it turned into a full weekend away. I realized I hadn't been entirely honest. I felt nervous all day. Trey stopped by my office a few times, clearly excited about our time together. After work, I drove to his apartment nearby. When I got there, Trey was eagerly waiting for me. I suggested we clean up a bit before going out, as I wanted to relax for a moment. I knew I was making a big choice by being out in public with someone new. For a moment, I wondered if this was the right decision. Still, the excitement was strong. I got ready in a little black dress and matching shoes, styled my hair in a loose bun, and put on some jewelry that Rob had given me when Gracie was born. I treasured those pieces. Trey and I were going to meet his friends at a nice restaurant. It took me some time to finish moving Laura's things, and as I wrapped up around dinner time, I heard the door open and the kids' voices. I went to the kitchen, and the kids both hugged me tightly and started telling me about the great hike I missed. They shared how Rob let them use his expensive camera to take pictures of their adventure. Rob told them to go clean up, and he would start getting dinner ready. He looked at me as if I were not there and didn't say anything. Then he went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and started getting things for dinner. I thought maybe I could talk to him when the kids were not around. I noticed you moved my things. I put everything back. Great. He said it with a tone that showed he was frustrated. It was just one weekend, Rob. One weekend out of all the time we've spent together. He looked at me with a look I rarely saw. When are you going back to him? What do you mean? I mean, he lowered his voice so the kids wouldn't hear. When will you be with him again? When I didn't answer right away, he turned away and said, That's what I thought. Please leave me alone to feed the kids. I headed back to the bedroom to put my things away. While I was there, Gracie came in and asked where I had been all weekend. I was surprised by her question, so I just said I was helping a friend. She nodded and left. After dinner, Laura got the kids ready for bed. While she did that, I went to our bedroom and started moving things again. I took loads of Laura's clothes from the hangers and set them on the bed in the spare room. I picked up the box from the hallway and put her toiletries in it again. Then I moved her dresser down the hall and into the bedroom. I went back to our room, closed the door, and sat in a chair, trying to remember the advice Jordan gave me. Don't push too hard yet, but show her that her choices have effects. It didn't matter if I had to move her things every day. I was set on doing it. I decided I wouldn't share a bed with her as long as she chose someone else. If I wasn't enough for her, then she could be on her own. When I finished getting the kids in bed, I knew Rob had been moving things again. I thought he might be moving his stuff, but I was surprised to see my things piled on the bed. I tried to talk to him, but he quietly asked me to leave him alone through the door. I needed to find a way back into our bed and our normal life. The next day, I went to work, where I designed buildings, and closed my office door to think about my next steps. Why had Laura chosen another man? What had I done that pushed her away? Would she leave me and the kids? When would she go? I had so many questions with no answers. I decided to use some strategies I learned as an engineer. I wrote things down. I made a lot of notes and organized them to try to find a solution. All morning, I wrote down my thoughts and rewrote them to help me think clearly. I knew I would have to talk to Laura and possibly to Trayvon Williams. I thought he was taking advantage of the situation. He knew Laura was married with 2 kids, and I was sure of that. Still, he acted like it didn't matter to him or her family. I realized that if things got tough, he would leave her without a second thought. I had little respect for people like him. Several weeks later, I'm spending the weekend with Trey. I told Rob that I was. I explained that since he didn't seem to care much about our relationship, I would spend time with someone who did. Rob looked at me in a way that showed he didn't understand. He seemed ready to move on, but I wanted to get back together with him. I hoped he would realize he cared about me and would fight for us. That didn't seem to be happening. Lately, I've been spending weekends and some weeknights with Trey. We go out for meals, have some drinks, and hang out with his friends. Some of them have asked about my kids and what I do with Trey. I told them their dad is taking care of them. One friend even mentioned wanting to reach out to Rob, saying she was not happy in her own relationship, but I didn't give her his number. My weekends follow a pattern, socializing and having fun. I enjoy being with Trey. He is charming and attractive, but I know there isn't much else to our connection. Sometimes I wonder how much longer this will last. When I decide to move on from Trey, I know I need to figure out how to make things right with Rob. I understand he's upset with me now, but I believe he still cares about me, and I hope he will want me back. I am still his wife and the mother of our children. I believe things will work out in the end. Several months later, I've been following Jordan's advice, being quiet and keeping track of everything. I write down every night and weekend Laura spends with her boyfriend. I also keep a record of every missed activity for the kids, like school events and their sports. I note every family event that is skipped. I write it all down, and about once a month, I go over it with Jordan. At our last meeting, he felt confident that I would get custody of the kids in family court. He had seen other clients struggle because they didn't have enough proof to support what they said about the other parent's ability to care for the kids. After thinking it over, I realized that I had enough. It was time to address the issues in my marriage with Laura, a relationship that had once meant everything to me. I decided I needed to let her know that our marriage was not working for either of us. I asked Jordan to prepare the necessary papers to serve her. I wanted to let Laura know ahead of time and have the papers brought to our house so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable with an unexpected visitor. I picked a Sunday when Laura got home after spending time with her boyfriend. The kids were asleep, and I took a beer from the fridge while pouring a glass of wine for her. She looked at me, puzzled, unsure of what I was going to say. "Laura, we need to talk." "Rob, what's this about? We haven't talked much lately." "Well, I think it's time we discuss our marriage. You remember that, right?" She seemed surprised and took a big sip of her wine. "I think it's clear where your priorities lie. You've shown that I'm not important to you, and neither are the kids. It's time we face what our relationship has become." I took a small drink. Laura stayed quiet, so I went on. "You should stay home tomorrow morning." "Why?" "There will be someone delivering important papers. It's a request to end our marriage. I don't want to be married anymore." I had another drink, and again Laura didn't respond. "You've spent a lot of time with your boyfriend over the past year and a half, showing that you don't want to be married or be a mother to Andy and Gracie. I need you to move out." "You want me to move out?" "Yes, that's how divorces usually go. You can continue your relationship without worrying about me or the kids. We can both move on." "Why are you doing this?" I told myself to stay calm, just like Jordan had told me. "We'll divide our belongings fairly and the house will be sold. I'll ask for custody of the kids, and I'll need you to help with their support and education costs. Besides that, you can take whatever furniture you want from the house, except for the children's things." I took another drink. "It will all be in the documents you'll get tomorrow. Please take it to a lawyer and let them reach out to my lawyer. His business card will be included. I don't wish to talk about this any further. You've made your feelings clear in recent months, so now you can have what you want." I got up and walked away. Laura was still at the table. I finished my beer and went to my room. Rob dropped the kids off at school, and I waited in the kitchen for the person delivering the papers he mentioned last night. I called my boss to say I needed a day off. Right at 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to see a woman in a blazer and jeans standing there. "Laura Brady?" "Yes." "Mrs. Brady, may I see some identification to confirm that you are Laura Brady?" "Okay." I went to get my purse and pulled out my driver's license to show her. She took a picture of the envelope and then handed it to me. "Laura Brady, you have been served." She stepped back a little, took another photo of me holding the envelope, and before I could respond, she went back to her car. I slowly closed the front door and went to the kitchen. I needed a glass of water, so I placed the envelope on the table and went to get it. I sat down, staring at the envelope, wishing it would just vanish. This was because of my feelings for Trey, and I wondered if those feelings were worth my family and my life. Rob. I got a call from Jordan's office around 10 a.m. They told me that the divorce papers had been given to Laura at 9 a.m. They offered to send me photos as proof if I wanted, but I said it wasn't necessary. This was the first day of a new chapter for me. I called Laura's bank around 3 p.m. to ask for her. The receptionist said she was off for the day. Knowing when everyone usually left, I drove to the bank and waited. I wanted to speak with Trayvon Williams. I spotted his car and leaned against it, arms crossed, waiting for him. Sure enough, around 5:15, I saw him coming. When he noticed me, he paused. He looked a bit unsure about approaching me, even though he was taller and seemed fit. As he walked over, I began, "You must be Trayvon Williams? Who are you?" "I'm Robert Brady. You know my wife, Laura Brady. I believe she has been your girlfriend for the last year and a half. What do you want?" "I came to inform you that you've got what you wanted." "She's all yours now." "What do you mean?" "It's simple. You wanted her. Now she's free to be with you as she wants. That's what I'm saying." I don't want a full-time partner. Sure, I like spending time with her, but I'm not looking for a full-time girlfriend. His words surprised me. Please explain another, then. Laura told me you two were serious. Trayvon looked unsure, and I realized he was seeing other people besides Laura. But that wasn't my problem. I laughed and stepped off the hood of his car. Well, Trayvon, that's your situation now. I hope you have room in your closet because she has a lot of clothes and shoes. I laughed again and walked back to my old Subaru. My next stop was home. Now that Laura worked at a bank, I worried she might quickly move money to accounts I couldn't reach. So I took action first and moved half of our funds into my own account at a different bank. I drove home slowly. When I got inside, I parked in my usual spot in front of the garage and made my way into the house. In the kitchen, I spotted the kids at the counter, busy with what looked like homework. "Where's Mom?" I asked. Gracie turned to me and said, "I think she's upstairs." "Thanks." I went upstairs to my bedroom to change. I could hear Laura in her room, but I chose to ignore her since she hadn't talked to me or the kids in months. After changing, I headed back to the kitchen to start making dinner. A few minutes later, Laura came down, said nothing, and left in her car. I looked at the kids and said, "I think she's off to help a friend." They both shrugged and returned to their activities. Laura Trey wasn't responding to my texts, so I drove to his apartment. When he let me in, he asked why I was there. I told him that Rob had filed for divorce and claimed I had been unfaithful, naming Trey as involved. Trey reacted with surprise and turned to get a drink. He looked at me and asked, "What do you want me to do?" When I didn't reply, he said, "Your husband found me today to say he was leaving you. He even asked about space for your things." And I didn't say anything. What should I tell him? That we're just friends? "You've called me your girlfriend to your friends. Am I really your girlfriend or just someone you enjoy being with?" "What do you want from me? We had fun, but that's it." "Just fun." He paused and added, "I don't want someone living with me. Sorry. Thanks for nothing." I got up and left. I needed a plan. I needed a lawyer. I needed help. I wanted to protect my family. 2 weeks later, Rob, my lawyer, Jordan, had been in touch with Laura's lawyer, and we were getting ready to discuss everything. Her lawyer had asked us to go to family law court to sort out a few things. One was Laura's idea that we try counseling to deal with what she called a big misunderstanding and some poor choices she made. I wasn't sure what she meant, but Jordan thought Laura might say she felt vulnerable, which made her open to Trayvon's attention, someone known for taking advantage of people during tough times. It seemed there might be more issues that could make things complicated. Now, I'm not an expert in mental health, but it felt like a lot of effort was being put into convincing me that if we sought counseling and Laura talked to someone, we might work things out. If things didn't change, the real losers in this situation would be our children, who needed both parents there to support and guide them. So, we started the process. The judge, a kind woman in her 60s, seemed to want to give Laura a chance to explain her side. She decided to pause the divorce proceedings until we finished counseling and until Laura's therapist sent in a report. During that time, Laura could stay in our home with our children. We wouldn't work on dividing our belongings until those two things happened. Jordan had expected this and talked to me about what would likely occur. After the session, he and I stepped outside to talk about the next steps. He advised me to stay calm, attend the counseling sessions, and see how things unfolded. He reminded me that I would probably get the divorce eventually, but this would also allow Laura to seek custody of the children, the house, and financial support. Being patient was important to get what I wanted. 4 months later, I went to 12 counseling sessions, sharing what I knew and what I hoped for. The marriage therapist, Dr. Snow, spent many hours discussing our individual needs for support and helping us understand that we often overlook our own needs when we are busy with marriage, kids, and jobs. I sensed that I was being set up to take the blame here. I realized I had unintentionally ignored Laura's needs, which led her to look for emotional support elsewhere, and I felt responsible for that. Though it was put in positive terms, it seemed to suggest I was at fault and that Laura deserved to find happiness. I took notes from most of the sessions and shared them with Jordan, who planned to call Dr. Snow to the family law court when the time was right. During one session, I asked what modern marriage looks like today. I questioned whether the commitment to be faithful was still important, given today's views on relationships. Dr. Snow looked uneasy and had trouble answering. Her response hinted that some unfaithfulness might be okay if both partners agreed, suggesting it would be an open marriage. I pressed further, asking if one partner could keep their connection to someone else hidden. Dr. Snow tried to steer the conversation back by saying that understanding differences between partners was one purpose of marriage counseling. I pushed for a clear answer about whether it was right to hide such actions. She knew it was not, but tried to deflect by saying our time was up and assigned us homework. Yes, homework. We were to talk about trust and how to build it between us. Laura. My temporary break is ending quickly, and I'm still not any closer to getting Rob to drop his divorce request. We haven't slept in the same bed for many months and haven't been close. The marriage counseling didn't help, and my talks with a psychologist didn't go well as my lawyer hoped. The doctor's report showed that I knew what I was doing and wasn't in any serious mental state. I just acted selfishly without thinking about the results until Rob filed for divorce. I'm not having a mental health crisis. I just made some big mistakes. Rob Jordan has set up a meeting with the family law judge to keep things moving. So far, there's been no talk about custody plans for the kids. To me, that's the main issue in this divorce. We reached the conference room ready to discuss the matters at hand and present my case for custody. To begin, we called Dr. Snow, the marriage counselor, to share the results of the 12 sessions. Jordan asked her to explain how things turned out. She turned to the judge and summarized that I was hesitant to share my feelings, which meant our marital problems weren't fully understood. Jordan seemed interested in pursuing this. The judge quickly stepped in. Counselor, there's no need to ask questions in this court. Jordan agreed, but seemed eager to press on. Dr. Snow, let me ask this. Did Laura Brady express why she felt the need to connect with someone outside her marriage? Well, that's a complicated question. Human needs are very intricate, and what drives us to seek fulfillment is often complex. So, she sought connection with another man? Yes, but it's not as simple as you might think. Can you explain more about the issues Laura Brady faced? Laura's desire for personal growth and self-fulfillment led her to seek experiences outside her daily life. So you're saying Laura felt unfulfilled in her relationship, which pushed her to look for a connection elsewhere? Dr. Snow looked a little uneasy. Jordan glanced at the judge, and both seemed to recognize the importance of the question and the unclear answer. Let me rephrase my question, Dr. Snow. Was Laura's way of seeking fulfillment considerate of her husband and children? I'm not sure what you mean. Well, the need for self-fulfillment doesn't necessarily mean seeking connections outside of marriage, does it? Well, no. So, would it have been better for Laura to talk about her feelings with Robert before looking for that connection? Again, that's a situation for Laura and her husband. Did she ever share her plans with him? Well, she did, eventually. And that was just before she was set to spend a weekend with him and his friends. Well into the time that Laura and he were close? I guess it was. So, Laura kept her relationship a secret for several months. Over a year, actually. Does that show that Laura cares about her husband or not? It really depends. Depends on what, Dr. Snow? Well, never mind, Doctor. It's clear to everyone here that Laura Brady did not show respect for her husband, Robert Brady, and their children, Gracie and Andy. I have no more questions for you right now. Dr. Snow stood up and looked at the judge, who turned to Laura's lawyer to ask if she had any questions. She didn't. So Dr. Snow was allowed to leave, but was warned that she might be called back later. She took her briefcase and left the room. Laura. The reports from the marriage counselor and the therapist did not help me. I wanted this all to end so I could go home. When the judge called for a break, I stood to talk to Rob. I was going to ask him to end this and for us to be a family again. I wanted my kids and my normal life back. I realized that being with Trey was a mistake, no matter how nice he was. I knew I didn't have a future with him, so I had to find a way to save my family. My mother had told me to do whatever I could to make things right if I wanted a chance to save my marriage. After the break, Rob's lawyer gave the judge a record of every time Rob knew I was with Trey, along with the family events and kids' activities I missed. I did not come out looking good in that comparison. My lawyer argued that even though I spent time with Trey, I was still a good mother, and that the kids needed me in their lives. The judge's expression suggested she didn't fully agree. Rob's lawyer shared Rob's plan for the kids. He suggested I would have some time with them, but that Rob would be the main caregiver. The judge asked my lawyer if we had anything else to help her decide. Since we didn't, the meeting ended, and everyone left. I wanted to talk to Rob, but he quickly walked away with his lawyer. I was still living at home, so I thought I could talk to him later. Rob. I returned home from the family court and gathered the kids to go out for food. They didn't ask where their mother was, and I didn't say anything. I figured she had gone to find her boyfriend, even though he wasn't really talking to her right now. I was ready to move on with this tough situation. I wanted the judge to approve my settlement plan so I could start fresh. 2 weeks later, I'm back at the family court with Jordan, and Laura is here with her lawyer. I'm really hoping we finalize everything today. When the court session started, the judge thanked us for being patient during the last 2 weeks while she looked over all the papers we provided to support our sides. It sounded very official, and I admit I wasn't really paying attention to what she was saying. Luckily, Jordan was focused and nudged me with his elbow, signaling me to listen. I got lost in my thoughts about everything Laura had put us through with her decisions. The chaos, the feeling of abandonment, and how it affected our kids. If she wanted a different life, she should have talked to us about it sooner to avoid so much hurt. Instead, she kept everything a secret, making it all harder. I pulled myself back to the moment and paid close attention. Thankfully, I got most of what I wanted. The most important thing was custody of the kids, and we would keep the house. Since I earned more than Laura, I would mainly handle the mortgage, while she would help with some child support. The judge approved her having plenty of time with the kids, which would have its own costs. In short, I would still cover most expenses, but Laura would also contribute to the kids' education funds. I considered that a win. The judge gave Laura 30 days to find a new place to live and said the divorce would be finalized in that time. I thanked the judge, who smiled and nodded. Then, I warmly shook hands with Jordan and hugged him in gratitude. As I was leaving the meeting room, I made sure to stop and talk to Laura. We hadn't spoken much in recent months, other than about the kids or family matters. We need to be together when we tell the kids about what's changing. When can we do that? She looked down as she answered, "How about this weekend?" Okay. I left it at that and drove home. Laura arrived just 5 minutes after me, and we actually sat at the kitchen table looking at each other for the first time in a while. "So, how do you want to tell the kids about you moving?" I added. "Have you thought about where you want to go?" She sighed at the thought. "No, not really. I guess I'll need to start looking." We were quiet for a moment, and then Laura asked, "Rob, do you think there's any way you could forgive me for my mistakes so we can try to be friends? I'll do whatever it takes to keep my family." I took a sip of my drink. "Laura, how many days and nights did you spend with Trayvon? Did you ever think that being with him could hurt our marriage?" I paused and took another sip. "Nothing about your feelings for him has changed, right? You would still choose to be with him if you had the opportunity. You made your choice, and it wasn't me." I finished my beer and grabbed another from the fridge. Laura stayed quiet. "How do you think it feels to know that after 9 years your wife prefers another man?" I thought I had a wife who cared about our family, but I was wrong. She chose to look for support with someone else, and it was clear that she didn't hide it. I took a breath and said softly, "Right now, I don't see how you can fix what you've done. You've made your decisions. You've got a month to find a place to live." Then I walked away. Talking with the kids went about how I expected. Their biggest worry was whether they would have to move. When I told them they wouldn't have to, they looked at their mother. Laura confirmed she was the one moving and that she would still be around often. She assured them they would have a room at her new home. The kids turned to me for confirmation, and I nodded. They exchanged glances, looking slightly relieved. Gracie looked at her brother and me, sharing their concern about losing friends or changing schools. I reassured them again that moving was not in the plans. I could see the relief on their faces. I started looking for an apartment, hoping to find something close to work to keep costs down. Rob offered me any furniture I wanted from our home. I noticed he was taking down reminders of our life together. Pictures of just the two of us were being taken off the walls. Our big wedding photo was removed from the family room. It hurt to see it gone, but I didn't ask about it. At work, Trey was avoiding me and seemed to have someone new in his life. I felt used and forgotten. I missed his company. I also missed Rob. I longed for the comfort of him beside me at night, feeling safe with his arm around me. I hadn't felt that warmth in a while. I used to feel his love when we were together. He was always caring and gentle, as if he thought I might break. There were times I wanted things to be more intense, something I had experienced with Trey. But now, neither of them brought me any real comfort. I put a deposit down on a 2-bedroom apartment in a new building only 4 blocks from the bank. The problem was that it wouldn't be ready until after the final date of our divorce. That night when I got home, I wanted to talk to Rob about possibly extending the time I had to move out. Staying in a hotel was going to be costly, and I wanted to stay in the house as long as I could. I needed to find a way to bring Rob back into my life. That would help us manage things better and hopefully allow us to function as a family again. I heard a knock on the bedroom door and figured it was Laura. "What? Can I come in? What do you want?" The door opened slightly and I saw Laura come into the room. She closed the door behind her. I had 2 thoughts at that moment. First, this chance to reconnect was a long time coming. It should have happened before she chose Trey. It felt like she wanted me as a backup for things he wasn't handling. Second, I still saw her beauty and missed the closeness we once shared. We hadn't been close in so long that I had tried to forget how much I cared for her. That bond felt lost now. I looked at Laura, turned away, and pulled the blanket up around my neck. "Please close the door on your way out." I knew she stood there for a moment before gathering her things and quietly leaving the room. "Laura, it's over. Rob doesn't want me. I feel like I've lost my worth. I gave what I should have given to Rob to Trey. I chose Trey too many times, and now he doesn't want me either. Everything has become messy, and he made it clear he was moving on. My boss at the bank told me there was a job opening at another branch and suggested I prepare for it. When I mentioned I was moving to an apartment nearby and that the other branch was far away, she looked at me and asked, "Do you want a job or not?" Then she walked away. So I began looking for a new apartment. When I told Rob that I was being transferred to another branch and that I needed more time to find a new place, he just looked at me and said, "Not my problem. You know when you have to be gone," and turned away. I found a new apartment. It wasn't ideal, but it was close to work, and it was big enough for the kids to stay with me when it was my time. The new job was just a sideways move, not the promotion I wanted, but I had to take it. Everyone at the new branch knew why I was there, and I noticed some of the women looking at me. I heard that Trey got promoted to my old job at my former branch. Wonderful. Rob couldn't wait for me to leave. He reminded me every day about how soon I had to be out. He even offered to help me pack, and we talked about what furniture I wanted to take. He started moving things to the garage and piled them up. It became quite a stack, and he even mentioned he planned to get rid of a few things once I was gone so he could change the look of the house. Moving day, I hired a local moving company called 2 Guys and a truck to help me move. They arrived right at 8 a.m. and backed up to the garage. After I told them what to load, they had everything on the truck in less than an hour. Rob even offered to help. I gave them the address of my new apartment, and they drove off. I looked around the house and thought about everything I had lost, especially my family. I had to wipe my nose a few times. Rob kept his distance as I moved about. He had taken the kids to school so they weren't here, and he took a day off work to help me with the move. Facing the results of my choices is tough. I finally understood what he meant when he said my actions had consequences. I delayed accepting reality, thinking I could do what I wanted and things would eventually return to normal. I thought the routine of family life meant I could have fun with Trey and that my family would always be there for me. Ignoring reality brings results, and now I was feeling those results. I glanced at Rob and was about to try one last time to ask if he could forgive me, but he looked at me and said, "Goodbye, Laura. I hope you got what you wanted." Then he turned and closed the garage door. Now for a joke. A husband says to his wife, "I bet you can't tell me something that will make me both happy and sad at the same time." She thinks for a moment, then replies, "Your talent is greater than your brother's." Or a family is driving behind a garbage truck when an unexpected object flies out and hits the windshield. Trying to keep her young son from worrying, the mother turns around and says, "Don't worry, dear. That was just an insect." The boy replies, "Wow, I'm surprised it could even fly with that."